joining us. Mike Block is a co-founder and chief strategy officer alongside AgentSmyth at AgentSmyth, many other agents, your AI tools that you're using. So, Mike, is this Powell's way of creating some alpha between the market and himself in his favor, trying to outsmart your robots and stuff, keeping us guessing up until the move?
Outsmarting our robots. Oh, ye of little faith, Oliver. Look,
did you guys think like, we would be going into this weekend coin flip 25 or 50 next week? That's pretty wild.
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing that we do is we track sentiment around phrases that pay like 50 basis points. We have sentiment trackers on our Agent M page. He's our macro autonomous agent, and he has shown an unrelenting interest in that 50 basis points phrase. And he's been showing that, and that hasn't gone down. So it's almost like he was reading into Nick Timiraos. He's reading Jay Powell's political motivations and agenda, perhaps, and realizing, hey, this was never say die. The money markets are going to tell you one thing. They're telling you 14% beginning of this week. Now it's back to the coin flip, as you guys just mentioned. We've been on that. We have been on that. But the other thing that we've been on is, what are the unintended consequences of that? At AgentSmyth, really Agent M every morning at 5:45 has a full readout integrating all of the macro, all of the policy, all of the psychodrama regarding all of the macro instruments, tying it back to the data. And these are the things that we're worried about here going into next week.
Okay, let's talk about the possible effects. But firstly, can you give us some idea what data? Was it the language? Was it the numbers? What in your tools were getting picked up? What inputs were getting picked up that were arguing for that 50 bips?
Again, it was, a lot of people come on here and talk about quantitative analysis, and they're saying, well, this is a quality market, or we're in defensive mode. We are literally keying in on things like, how much is 50 basis points mentioned? How much is politicization of the Fed mentioned? We're actually picking up on these actual phrases and analyzing that, but then we're analyzing that alongside some of the data. Look, we can look at CPI and say, oh, that ran a slightly hot. It didn't really run hot enough for anyone to get concerned. Obviously, when markets dip and move on a CPI, on a PPI number, they're going to react to it, and they're going to overreact and knee-jerk to everything. The other thing that we're doing is we're watching relative levels in the market, and there was a lot of doom and gloom in the market. But once we cleared 55.15, 55.20 in the S&P 500, we were back to this positive gamma mode, for the non-option, non-Greek speaking people in the audience. That really means that there's a lot of moves that are dictated by what's going on in the options market.
Right.
There's a lot of agendas that we're seeing, and some of the stocks you mentioned, I can go on for days. I won't. About why is Amazon trading where it is? Why is Nvidia trading where it is today? Maybe we'll get to that. But the point is, once we get to certain levels, now there's a lot of runway. Right now, with 56.20 that we're seeing here, we're seeing a lot of clear runway. Agent M and our agents are seeing a lot of clear runway to 5,700, 570 in the SPY, and then we'll go from there. We'll see if it gets exhausted. But a lot of positive signals from the options environment going into next week. Granted, very volatile week. We know it's triple witching and index rebalances on Friday, the Fed Wednesday, obviously. And then Wednesday morning, we also have the VIX expiration, which, certain months does wreak havoc upon the prevailing trend. So we're watching all of that in these levels real time 24/7 here.
Okay, I like that. Mike, the fundamentalist inside of you, the pre-machine man, the pre-AI man, thinking about kind of the difference between 50 bips out of necessity versus like 50 bips out of celebration. I feel like one's better for the market than the other. Are the agents picking up on the kind of causality of 50 in a way that might make us feel better?
The agents don't lie, right? And they're telling us, yeah, there's a good possibility of 50. That's never gone away. What the agents are doing for us and doing for our users and clients is warning of unintended consequences.
Okay.
Because we don't live in this simple world where it's like 50 basis points, let's party.
Sure.
Great dance moves. It all comes down to what does that really mean? And one thing that the agents have been keying in on, I get questions from clients all day. I got one question from a client: are the agents worried about a government shutdown? And I said, no. I'll let you know when they are. They're going to detect something, and right now they're not worried about the government shutdown. As soon as they are, you all know.
Okay.
But what they are worried about is the fact that we're heading into this environment where we're getting strong signals that 50 basis points is very much on the table for next week, and then 25, and then 25, 100 total, in the context of a Bank of Japan, which may be hiking again by December. Now, what does that mean? Now, the thought is, okay, well, this is good for tech stocks. Hooray, NVIDIA, hooray, Amazon, hooray, Apple. Although, as we've seen today, there's other factors to that maybe we'll get to. But what does this really mean for companies like, that are trying to sell into Japan? What does this mean for companies that are consumer companies trying to do business in Japan? And it's a lot to manage. A company like Caterpillar might benefit from a stronger yen because there's a weaker dollar. Maybe their costs go down, but not if they have customers in Japan they were depending upon who suddenly are going confused and not know what to do, or if they can't manage your FX risk, right?
Yeah, maybe the currency just goes crazy like it did, just because of traders, right? I mean, the dollar's getting hit hard today, so it seems like we should be alert to this possibility again.
What about the U.S. banks? I made the joke earlier this week. Maybe Barclays should have just had a golf tournament.
Right. That's funny because they all
talk.
Have you ever seen anything like that where they all talk so down on their own industry?
I know I have a full head of hair and I got a little bit of gray here, but I was around in 2007, Oliver. So I was around in 1997. So I remember all of this. I was like 5 years old then. I'm just kidding. But the point is, there was all this doom and gloom, and suddenly, okay, we're fine. I just said, we have runway to 5,700. But what happens when the BOJ raises rates and the U.S. is cutting rates? What does that mean for U.S. banks? Are global investors going to rotate into Japanese income opportunities and look at Japanese banks more favorably? Does that hurt J.P. Morgan and Bank of America in ways that maybe people aren't thinking about? Well, our agents are thinking about that. Agent S was talking to me about that yesterday.
Well, good timing.
Question.
Because J.P. Morgan's down. The rest of the market's been up all day. The banks have been surprisingly weak. So you think we got pretty good kind of suction from the options flow gamma to take us higher. But the point is that some of these ramifications kind of tied to deeper cuts and rotation still need to keep us on alert.
No, and that's right. And let's talk about the suction and the pressure of the options.
Henry, we got about 45 seconds. Go, Mike.
Okay. So you guys are talking about Apple. What I'll say is in Apple, 225, very important price.
Okay.
Pin level. Options, we're below that. Amazon, same thing, 187.5. You see, we're below that. It wouldn't surprise me if we close somewhere near there. And then finally, NVIDIA, we talked about 120 earlier, same kind of thing going on. What's going on is the pressure on these zero DTE, these short expiration options that we see in the SPY and we see in the Qs, it's now happening in single stocks like NVIDIA and Amazon. Beware.
Love that.
Agent O, option specialist, is picking up on that. And again, many things that go on in AgentSmyth. We're looking to be on top of all of that more and more every day for you.
All right. Fun chat. Mike Block, good to catch up. Always good to see you on a Friday before the weekend.